Welcome to The Anxious Voyage. If you think that title sounds bleak or foreboding, one of two things must be true. You're very lucky, or you need to get out more. On this program, we share stories of life and living. We compare notes. We discover commonalities. We accept that life is a glorious, heartbreaking thing, and we embrace and celebrate all of it. Take the ride with us. We're glad you're here. Now, here's your host, Mark O'Brien.
Hello and welcome. We are glad you're here as always. I'll remind you this show airs every Monday at 1 a.m. and 1 p.m. Eastern Time, with live call and video shows every first and third Mondays at 1 Eastern. You can watch or listen to the show on the live stream syndicated online. You can find the show on your mobile devices or in your cars by saying, "Alexa, play Dream Vision's 7 radio network." You can get the Dream Vision apps, or you can watch us on podcasting networks that include iHeartRadio, Stitcher, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Podcasts, and more. To learn more, to find our full schedule, and to see our show archives, please go to dreamvision7radio.com. And as always, we're coming to you live from World Headquarters in Middletown, Connecticut, home of the annual convention of Dart Team Goalies. In keeping with our theme of anxious voyages and embracing all of life as it plays out for us, I'm really happy to welcome my guest today, John Tejada. John and I actually met at a restaurant at which he serves as a waiter, and I think we were immediately attracted to each other because he may be a bigger Batman fan than I am. I'm not entirely sure, but he's definitely up there. I will tell you that John has written a manuscript for a book called Searching for Redemption. We and the book are presently in search of a publisher. That's very much in the works. And John is here today to share with us his story as reflected in the book. John, I just want to start first, of course, by welcoming you, but by saying that at the beginning of the book, you start out by saying you were the golden ticket.
Yes, sir.
Can you please tell us about that?
Well, first of all, thank you for having me. I greatly appreciate it. It's an honor to be on the program. I put in that I was a golden ticket because I'm like most people, you're a Willy Wonka fan, so you think about like the golden ticket of is getting in the candy bar, they're trying to get a tour of the chocolate factory. And when I was thinking about that, I kind of thought about that. I was born in a really, really great situation. I grew up in Brooklyn, New York. I had parents who stressed education more than anything. And I really can say I wanted for nothing, and not because they just gave me everything, but more because they showed me how to obtain what I wanted. They showed me how to, get really good grades, that studying hard is the only way you can get an education. The only thing they can't take away from you in this world is your education. They stressed, how to be a great athlete. Even though none of them played, college sports, they knew the determination it took and the resiliency you needed to keep your craft up. So I was able to do really great sports. I was able to, take music lessons. I had, grew up in a great house in a great neighborhood in Brooklyn. Like I was absolutely, my childhood, I always laugh at saying it resembled the Cosby Show. It was really that great. So when I talk about I was the golden ticket, it felt that when I look back at it, that I was given every tool that you could have to be really, really successful in this world. And it wasn't just a chance winning it. It was, this is what you have. And I was kind of born into that and raised in that manner. So that's where that idea came from.
So I think to provide some context for parts of the story we'll get into later, could you just please say something a little more about your parents and who they were?
So my father was a Supreme Court judge. He, when I was 7, he became a civil court judge, and I remember getting so excited while I was at camp. That my father was actually a judge. He's also probably the smartest guy I knew. Went to NYU Law School, moved his way up through the court system, from civil to criminal to family, to court of claims, and an acting superior court judge in New York City. My mom, she was a woman who was never wrong, which is always weird to say. You always don't listen to their mothers. And I wrote a previous book one time that one of the chapters literally was listen to your mother, because she was never wrong. She was an immigrant from Barbados who moved here in her 20s, went to college, went to dental school, and she had a private practice as the dentist in Manhattan. She had some really famous clients, patients that were there with her. I used to go in and see like different actors in the waiting room. I would see like posters on the wall that were signed by like people from different TV shows, especially on PBS, Great Space Coaster and Sesame Street and stuff like that, because they came in to see her. It was one of those really cool times. So, I mean, she worked tremendously hard. She worked 5 days a week. She would sometimes put in hours that would get her home at 8, 9 o'clock at night. But at the same time, even when that was going on, she always made sure to be checking my homework and going through there. My father did his best to check my homework, but math was never his forte. My mom's was. So he knew that when it came to math, that he was gonna let her do it, which was always hard for me. The worst part though is his forte was history. So if I had a history paper to do or anything like that, you're gonna be up all night. And he was gonna be very extensive with his notes in terms of what you need to know. So, I mean, so they were very well educated, they worked very, very hard at their craft, and they earned everything that they got, through it with their own determination, their skills and perseverance. And they created an amazing household, for me and my sister.
You said something along with your academic discipline. You said something about athletic discipline. I will be the first to admit, I don't know the first thing about fencing, but when I think about fencers, I don't think of large, muscular people like you. How is it that you ended up drawn to fencing? And did that in fact win you a scholarship to college? At that point, I'm not clear on.
So I started fencing because in 6th grade, a guy walked into our school. They had to go to a private school in Brooklyn, and he looked like D'Artagnan. He had the goatee that came down to a point, the big mane of hair, big leather boots. He was an actor, and that was his shtick. And he said he was going to start a fencing program here. And I saw The Princess Bride. Yeah, and that fencing is sword fighting The Princess Bride. I'm like, this is amazing. And I saw other movies, a big Zorro fan, and to the point where when I actually got into fencing, I used to draw a Z on my gloves for that. And I hate admitting that to myself right now. Yeah, he started his program, and I got every kid, to go and try and do it, on the 6th grade basketball team. And I was always drawn to the kind of weird sports. I used to show jump horses from age 7 to 17. In high school, the city champ swimmer, and then I became I was a fencer starting 6th grade and went all the way through. And yeah, I got a scholarship from Notre Dame, fencing wise. And I had some great teammates in college. I had some great teammates in high school. I mean, I always laugh because 2 of my teammates in high school ended up becoming Olympians and world champions. These guys I was better than them at that point, but they far exceeded my skill set, as we got older, but yeah, I was drawn to weird sports, and that's kind of because of my mom. I always loved basketball, and of course I love basketball. I'm a black kid from Brooklyn, and she literally told me that one time. She said, listen, a black kid from Brooklyn playing basketball, that's a cliche. You can go on every court out here and you're going to find the exact same thing. People look just like you playing basketball, thinking they're really great. I'm saying, you're good. Yep, you're good. But are you that good? Are you so much better than everybody else, that you're going to, or you can be the kid who does other sports that can be attractive to other places, and I think when I was looking at colleges, I mean, that was a huge plus, that, I wasn't just a basketball player, because I played basketball with the guys on the team, and my claim to fame was I never lost them in a pickup game. But these guys were Big East basketball type players, people going to NBA. That's not me. I know my skill set, and that's not me. They were better than I was, but you pick a sport that you're doing that you're really good at, and not everybody else does. It makes you a little bit more unique, and it definitely helped me get into different colleges, and also it just helps round you out. So yeah, I can play basketball, but I also have these other skills that I'm also able to do.
And one of the things I recall clearly from your book is that you did not perform as well as you might have hoped in one of your college tournaments. And so, as I understood it, that made you determined, I believe in 2006, to go to championships. Do I recall it was in Atlanta?
Yeah, absolutely. No, when I was in college, we lost the NCAA championship 3 years in a row to Penn State. And I forever will not like this Penn State. But in my senior year, I always say I choked away the last three bouts. That if I win those three bouts, we are national champions. I lose two of them, we finish second by 2. And it was a thing that literally, it was in my head for 7 years, where every single day that thought would come up. I realized I'm a dweller. And so when things go wrong, I started dwelling on those bad things that kept coming up. And no matter what I did, every single day I'd wake up, get in the shower, I'd do 2 fencing moves, and I'd think about, how I lost a championship. It got to the point by the time year 7 came around, I was actually calling teammates up and apologizing. And I went back to school and I apologized to my old coach, who told me I have to get over it. And he was right. I absolutely needed to get over it. And I was coaching, and I had a bunch of students tell me how much fun it was to watch me fence, and how much fun it was that they had, watch me compete. And I had one particular one who was at North Carolina, who told me we're going to start competing and try and qualify for summer nationals. So I qualified, in a bunch of different events, and I went down there, and I hadn't really competed in a tournament in a really long time. So I was like, this will be interesting. This will be fun. But, I had a buddy of mine down there with me. I had some great students there, and I just kind of had fun with it, and it became a thing where like, if we keep going, what are the chances of we losing this thing? I'm like, who knows? Like, you can turn around and win a gold medal at summer nationals, become a national champion. So I kept going before I realized I was in a championship bout. I started laughing like, oh, shnikes, we're here. And then when we won it, it was fun. The funny part, my mom, before I left, she's like, why are you going to Atlanta? I'm like, well, what do you mean? Like, she's like, are you going to exercise some demons? I literally stopped at the door, turned around and went, yeah, I'm going to say, yes, you're exactly right, lady. That's why I'm going down to Atlanta to compete, trying to exercise some demons. Thanks. Like, I got to go. And, I walked out the door, after visiting my parents, walked out the door and, flew to Atlanta. But that was it. I was literally trying to exercise some demons. And once in a while, that's a great thing. Other times, though, you have to watch out because they're still there. They don't really go away just because you exercise in that one time. or you got to at least know why you're really doing it, or why those teams are really there. Actually,
one of my favorite novels is A Fan's Notes by the late Frederick Exley, and he said something along the lines of, and this is a pretty close quote, while it is best to keep one's demons within, one does, after all, have to learn to live with them. So what I would like to do at this point is just segue into your having the opportunity to, as I understand this, to establish your own fencing school, academy, whatever it was. And I don't know if that was post 2006, past beyond those championships, or when that actually happened.
I actually had started one with a teammate of mine, somewhere around 2004 in Middletown. And we eventually had a falling out. And a couple of years later, I had a group of people approach me about starting my own fencing school. And some people put a business proposal together, and I'll tell you right now, I'm not really good at that. I'm never really good at numbers and proposals and things like that. But I had people around me who were good, and we created an academy down in Fairfield. And it was beautiful. It was beautiful. It was great. I had a lot of parent support. I had community support. We were really working towards something fantastic there, something I could be proud of, and something where I could, being a national champion or winning a national championship, definitely helped in selling it. Coaching a team that was being successful, helped as well. I used to always say that I've never ever been on a losing team in fencing. I've never ever coached a losing team, ever. I've won multiple championships. I've won multiple Coach of the Year awards. I was even named Coach of the Decade, in the state of New Jersey for 2000s. So I had success in doing this. So that all helped, and yeah, we created a really great fencing academy down in Fairfield.
I think it's fair to say that either during the period of your academy or when you were teaching elsewhere, that's where the wheels sort of fell off, which is going to lead us, and we'll do this after the first break, which is coming up in a couple of minutes, but we'll get into how and why that led to your search for redemption. But as sort of a segue into that, can you just tell us what happened, and we'll get into the consequences of that, maybe a little bit now, but certainly after the break.
So how much time do we got before the break?
I'm going to say maybe 5 minutes, 4 to 5 minutes.
Okay. So what happened was if you don't deal with whatever demons you have in your head and feelings of inadequacy, feelings of self-loathing, that you have going through, they eventually come back and they rear their ugly head. When I was in Brooklyn at times, I had bouts of depression, serious depression, to the point where I contemplate ending my life. I remember one night I actually was biking across the Brooklyn Bridge late at night in the rain, and I thought about if I just rode across the top of the rails over the roadway, I can easily just bike off the bridge. And that's how and it was Brooklyn. This is my home. I'll end it here. And I ended up not doing it because I ended up running into somebody who needed help, getting back across the bridge. So I ended up not doing it. But when you don't really deal with certain things, it rears his head up in ugly ways. And unfortunately, I didn't deal with self-loathing. I was looking for outlets, and I made the biggest mistake of my life, and I ended up having an affair with one of my seniors on the team. It was pretty much a month-long affair, and it cost me everything. It led to me losing the academy, led to me losing my coaching on the team. It led to me losing my family, my children, my wife. And as they're going to come up back to the break, my freedom, and that's something that I'm dealing with still right now. And I'm going through everything right now. So So yeah, it was really, some people will say that, I thought I was Superman, and I was too big for my britches, and I thought I was unstoppable, I could do anything I wanted to. And there was a self-feeling of that, but the more I thought about it, it's more that hatred you have for yourself at times, saying, in some cases that you're not as good as you thought you were, or you should have been, or that you were trained to be. That you let people down, and you're trying to find a way to kind of heal that pain inside of you, and in this case, I found it in probably the worst part I could have done as a coach.
Interesting, because just before you said what you said, and as I was listening to you, and this never occurred to me before, that something like that could be tied to a history of success, and perhaps feeling like you were not entirely deserving of that success, which it seems to me, I'm no psychologist, would feed that history of self-loathing, or at the very least, self-doubt, which I will suggest, and we're going to take the break now, but I will suggest that that self-loathing in all likelihood has to make your search for redemption all the more difficult. So we will get into that in just a moment. We will take our first break right now, and we'll be back in 3.
Everybody has a story. Everyone's story deserves to be told, and the only bad stories are the ones we don't share. That's why Mark O'Brien created The Anxious Voyage. It's Mark's conviction that every story deserves to be shared, and his purpose is to give people in all walks of life, from any circumstances, a chance to tell their stories. The Anxious Voyage is now on syndicated Dream Vision 7 radio network every Monday at 1 a.m. and 1 p.m. Eastern Time, with live broadcast every first and third Monday at 1 p.m. Eastern. Please tune in, please join Mark, and please share your stories.
Ever wonder what it's like to have your own radio show? Well, wonder no longer, because you can dip into the radio airwaves by being host for the day on syndicated Dream Vision 7 radio network. It's a fabulous way to get your radio feet wet. It's an opportunity to market your business, modality, or book. Have a guest, mention a sponsor, and take callers. Or you may want to facilitate a lesson by going solo. It's up to you. Listeners can be online, mobile, in cars with Bluetooth, or listen through Amazon's Echo by asking, Alexa, play Dream Vision 7 Radio Network. For more details, go to dreamvision7radio.com and click on Host for the Day.
You can't establish your brand's authority without a voice. That's why, since 2004, O'Brien Communications Group, OCG, has been helping companies establish their authority, find their brands, distinct voices, and position their brands effectively and persuasively. So effectively that 9 of OCG's clients have been acquired by other companies. OCG's business model emphasizes efficiency and results, not hourly billing, markups, and media commissions. That ensures OCG's advice is unbiased and its clients aren't at financial risk. If you're ready to find your voice and use it to tell your story, OCG is ready to help. You can find O'Brien Communications Group on the web at o'briencg.com. That's OBRIENCG.com, or call 860-944-9022.
Calling all authors. Have you been considering an audiobook? Well, look no further. Come take advantage of Dream Vision 7 Radio Network's unique in-house audiobook production, which includes benefits and bonuses from our radio station. Let our knowledgeable staff guide you to create the audiobook you've always dreamed of without breaking the bank. Check out our full one-stop service from A to Z, including the ACX process. Schedule a free consultation by calling 508-226-1723. That's 508-226-1723. Or go to dreamvision7radio.com.
This is Dream Vision 7 Radio Network, uniting mankind with universal love. Our shows are created from the heart, bringing each listener to a place of divine enlightenment. Breathe, relax, and enjoy. Let life flow.
Welcome back. John, you and I have had a number of conversations before, and every time we do, I feel like dots connect. So here's what I mean. Given what you've shared with us here today so far, when you were headed off to Atlanta, your mom commented to you that you were a dweller, that you tended to dwell on things. And there was the comment made about exorcising demons. And you also shared with us that you went through those periods in your younger life of self-loathing. And I want to share with people that are listening to this program today that the second time we met, you made an offhanded comment about a failure to manage your demons. And the third time we met, you mentioned, again, in a sort of disarmingly offhanded way, that you had destroyed your life. So given what you just shared with us about the affair with one of your senior students, can you please tell us what the implications of that were? And most immediately, the legal consequences of that.
So, yeah, the legal consequences of that was that I was arrested and then eventually pled guilty to second-degree sexual assault. I was sentenced to 10 years, suspended after 2, with 10 years probation. So I went away and served 20 months in 3 different facilities across the state of Connecticut. First of all, Bridgeport, then Cheshire, and then eventually Brooklyn, which I found to be somewhat, coincidental. And then been on probation for the past nearly 8 years. I have about 2 years, 2 months left of probation.
And I'm going to guess that after probation, the offense remains on your record.
After probation, the offense will remain there. I'm no longer on probation, no longer on the registry or anything like that, but it is there because, as you know, it's there, and then Google lasts forever. So,
right.
So it's there. It's one of those reminders of that mistake. It's never a thing of. I used to like Googling myself. When I was younger, I used to enjoy it because a lot of cool things popped up. Talked about, fencing, talked about championships, we talked about coaching. Had a lot of great articles about me. Different awards I've won, stuff like that. Now you have to go to page like 4 or 5 to get to that. It's a lot of really harsh stories, and not all of them exact. You know, the wording is a little bit off in some cases, but they're not nearly as much fun as they used to be when you do that. So
and I will tell you, I for one don't happen to be someone who is willing to take things at face value. So I always presume that I don't know exactly where the truth is. So, you know, it helps me to suspend judgment. But here were the dots that I was connecting. So you come from this, I don't know if I should go so far as to say privileged, but I'll say more than adequate background, good home, good parents, good discipline. That had to only compound how bad you felt when you did make that mistake. Then you find yourself incarcerated and coming out, being on probation for 10 years, and all of that, it seems to me, in a search for redemption, is compounded by the fact that you're a dweller. And you and I were on a call with a group of people, and a gentleman named Phil Williams, who will be a guest on this show shortly, said to us that he's a Christian and that he wanted you to understand that you're already forgiven, and that what you need to do is to forgive yourself. I actually believe he's correct, but I also recognize that especially for someone with, sorry, I'm just going to say a psychological profile, even though I'm not a psychologist, but a psychological profile like yours, that's got to be incredibly difficult.
Yeah, it is. And I remember Phil saying that, and I appreciate him saying that, but I also thought to myself, that's not quite realistic in a lot of ways. And I say that because when you're saying, oh, well, Jesus has forgiven you, you're already forgiven, so you just got to forgive yourself now. I go, that's great, but that doesn't help me find housing. You know, it doesn't help me find or keep a job. It doesn't help me, you know, pay bills or send money to my children. You know, it doesn't help me do that. You know, thinking that, and I could be wrong. You know, I've never been a very religious person. I went to a very religious school. I can count, you know, the amount of times I went to mass on my hand. And I think the last time I did go was the last of the NCAA championship. And we ended up losing. And I mean, walking out professing there is no God out loud, you know, in front of a statue of Jesus. You know, that's probably not the best way to go about doing it, right? But I, you know, and I could be wrong, because as I'm thinking about this now, it could be, well, if you believe that you're forgiven, you know, it make life easier to kind of move on with stuff, so you won't dwell on stuff so much, and you might not have those demons come back, and they may not, you know, rear their ugly heads to force you or aid you in either doing something bad or feeling bad about yourself and not putting your best foot forward. You know, it's a really crappy circle, you know, to kind of go through. And I'm shocked to use the word crappy because I curse like a sailor, but it is that keeps going and keeps going, keeps going. You know, it's a motion where you think, you know, if I believe I'm forgiven, and I thought this also, if I'm forgiven, if I forgive myself, I should be able to go on. You know, I shouldn't have to deal with or worry about what other people are thinking about me. But the problem is, in the world we live in, other people's thoughts about you are very, very poignant. You know, other people's thoughts about you have cost me jobs. Other people's thoughts about you have cost me friendships, relationships. Other people's thoughts about me have cost me, place to live. Like I remember when I first got out, no one said yes. I couldn't find a place to live. There was no shot at finding a place to live. I was staying in a Days Inn hotel, in Hartford by the airport, Brainerd Airport, not even Bradley, Brainerd Airport down there. And because no one else said yes, and I couldn't get a better hotel because they wouldn't allow me to be in a better hotel because it might have a pool. At the time, they thought that I should be around children at that time. Since then I don't have those issues, but so I couldn't stay at a Hilton. I was staying at a Days Inn. And that's where I lived. I lived there for 2 months, and I got my mail sent there. Mail be sent to there, and it was, paying through that way. The front desk people knew me by name, and I knew them. I knew their kids. I was the only person doing laundry, there because that's what it was. I still had the clear plastic garbage bags that they give you to put your stuff in. That was my suitcase, my bags that were just in the kind of corner of the room. I try to make it as neat as possible, but that's where I was because no one said yes. And the reality is, when you don't deal with things, when you don't properly go about doing stuff, the consequences are drastic. My father always said, and again, smartest man I ever met, do whatever you want, but understand that whatever you do, there will always be consequences for it. So if you're going to do something poorly, there's a consequence for that. If you do something well, there's a consequence for that. And there's good and bad consequences, but there are always consequences. And in my actions, the consequences were, I'm now living in a hotel. I'm now staying here. I'm now working. When I did get a job, my first job was a selector at a warehouse, driving around in a pallet jack, which I had no idea what the hell a pallet jack was. But I needed to know how to do a figure 8 with it going backwards, and I was in my late 30s, jumping on this pallet jack, running around with, 2 surgically repaired knees and a surgically repaired ankle, sciatica killing me from every time I fallen off a horse or crashed to a fence or fell down playing basketball or tore something. And I'm running up and down picking up groceries, to select them for supermarkets, and you have a time where you're going through that. I'm like, this is, wow, like this is not for me, and the problem is, and this is where the forgiveness part I have trouble with at times, is that, and also where the golden ticket thing pops in. When you think about something that's not for you, you question, why is it not for you? I have a really good friend, and God, I love her to death. And she always says, there's a job for everyone, and this one's not for me. And there's a reason why. Some are too physical, some are too mental, some have too much math. This one was not just the physicality of it, but also that mental feeling of, I went to Notre Dame. My high school, I went to a public high school that's ranked in the top 50 in the country. That's a really damn good school. My father was a judge. My mom was a dentist. I grew up here. I did well in the SATs. I did all this stuff. I've worked for really great companies. What am I doing in a dirty warehouse, running around in steel-toe sneakers, which I didn't even know they made, on a pallet jack, which I had no idea was actually a thing, trying to get as many bottles of water, on top of a pallet jack and just racing around doing this. Like, I'm going to hurt myself because my body's not made for this right now. I have too many injuries that allow me to do this. But more importantly, how did I end up here? So you feel great that you have the job, but then you feel like crap because you go home thinking, I used to put on 3-piece suits and go to work. what am I doing? And you keep trying to fight your way up into that, and trying to make your way back into there, only to either be let go because someone finds out who you are, or let go because you got harassed at some point and now they're going to blame you, or, let go because you never worked on those demons. Now you screw yourself up again. So it's so I understand what Phil says, and I really do, and I get it. But I think forgiving yourself might be the hardest thing you can do. And I still haven't figured out how to do that. And I'm not sure. No, please.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I'm just saying, I'm not sure if Jesus has forgiven me or not. We haven't had that conversation lately. But I know I struggle with that myself. And I have gone to church. I have gone, to try and figure this out. Like, maybe if I go here, this will feel better. And the last time I was at church, I was actually at St. Patrick's in New York. And I prayed. And I prayed for the first time in a really long time. And I actually talked to a priest. And I asked him for help. And I cried afterwards. And I hate crying. And it still didn't quite work out. So.
I have this sort of conundrum within myself, and I'll tell you what it is. I believe that Frankenstein should be required reading, because the lesson from Frankenstein is we have to live with the monsters we create.
Yeah.
I'm conflicted because I also am not a person who believes in absolutes. So do you derive any hope from the idea that, given where you started when you were first released from prison and where you are now, has there been any process of incremental gain? Are you able to do a little better each time? Does your past fade a little bit? I don't know. I'm just going to say here, I hope we haven't lost John. I don't know if he can hear us. Rachel, at this point, why don't we take that second commercial break, and I will track John down.
Sounds like a good plan.
Thank you.
Are you ready for the quantum age?
Humanity's next step in evolution?
Dream Vision 7 Radio Network invites you to the extraordinary platform of evolutionary voices for the quantum age.
Let's explore. Learn more about this upcoming age where we bridge science with spirituality.
Where potentiality meets reality.
Where we take compassion into action.
Our trailblazers and visionaries will ask the whys, the what ifs, while igniting continuous possibility.
Come along with us into an age beyond what we know today, where we can grow together in unity consciousness.
Experience evolutionary voices for the quantum age, Monday through Friday at 8 a.m. and 8 p.m. Eastern on DreamVision7Radio.com.
You can't establish your brand's authority without a voice. That's why, since 2004, O'Brien Communications Group, OCG, has been helping companies establish their authority, find their brands, distinct voices, and position their brands effectively and persuasively.
Yeah, it looks like I'm.
9 of OCG's clients have been acquired by other companies. OCG's business model emphasizes efficiency and results, not hourly billing, markups, and media commissions. That ensures OCG's advice is unbiased and its clients aren't at financial risk. If you're ready to find your voice and use it to tell your story, OCG is ready to help. You can find O'Brien Communications Group on the web at o'briencg.com. That's OBRIENCG.com, or call 860-944-9022.
Calling all authors. Have you been considering an audiobook? Well, look no further. Come take advantage of Dream Vision 7 Radio Network's unique in-house audiobook production, which includes benefits and bonuses from our radio station. Let our knowledgeable staff guide you to create the audiobook you've always dreamed of without breaking the bank. Check out our full one-stop service from A to Z, including the ACX process. Schedule a free consultation by calling 508-226-1723. That's 508-226-1723. Or go to dreamvision7radio.com.
Everybody has a story. Everyone's story deserves to be told, and the only bad stories are the ones we don't share. That's why Mark O'Brien created The Anxious Voyage. It's Mark's conviction that every story deserves to be shared, and his purpose is to give people in all walks of life, from any circumstances, a chance to tell their stories. The Anxious Voyage is now on syndicated Dream Vision 7 Radio Network every Monday at 1 a.m. and 1 p.m. Eastern Time, with live broadcast every first and third Monday at 1 p.m. Eastern. Please tune in, please join Mark, and please share your stories.
This is Dream Vision 7 Radio Network, uniting mankind with universal love. Our shows are created from the heart, bringing each listener to a place of divine enlightenment. Breathe, relax, and enjoy. Let life flow.
Well, there we go. With any luck, the technical gremlins will take the rest of the day off. And we'll be here. John, I was just asking you, and I do want to segue to something else, but I was just asking you if, given the fact that you have been out for 8 years, and what you were explaining to us, if you're finding some process of incremental gain, does the way get a little bit easier? Does the past recede a little?
Yeah, and I'm sorry about that. It's probably my fault, Sam, which is kind of funny. Your producer earlier said how everything was working just fine.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing.
And then this cuts out. It does get easier. It does get easier as you're going through it. And I think the toughest part about that, though, is that, the kind of the hubris comes in. Like, you think it's easier. Hey, I'm doing okay. I can do this. And then you start messing up a little bit, right? You start stretching those boundaries, start stretching them more, a little more. And you start feeling good about yourself. Hey, I'm good to go. And you're not, and you don't pay enough attention to what's going on. You don't pay enough attention to the signs that you're going out of bounds, because you finally feel a little bit free. And that's the toughest part about it. You start feeling a little bit free, and then they find a way to reel you back in. And that's kind of one of my faults of not properly, again, dealing with stuff, not properly dealing with issues that you had, and how to get around that. And I think the toughest part, though, in all honesty, Mark, is not just when it's getting easier. It's that fear, the trepidation of waiting for the other shoe to drop. That's really what gets me in a lot of ways. That keeps me going. That's what keeps me up at night. Where something is going well, like, hey, it's going okay. When is this going to go poorly? This is going to go poorly. It has to go poorly, because you're not going to get lucky here, and it becomes that self-fulfilling prophecy. where it's not going poorly yet. So you do something stupid and make it go poorly. That you find a way to ruin it all again, even though it's going okay. Or when it does go poorly, you can't figure a way to deal with it properly yourself. I've had a couple instances where, I lost a position that I really liked, I really worked hard to get to, and I was going really well at. And I lost that position, and I couldn't figure out how to properly handle it. That's the problem. I couldn't figure out how to properly handle it, and it led me to, do other stupid things, and led me to just go down a path that I know I shouldn't have been on, and be in a spot where I'm just getting angry all the time. And I turn around and I'm back in the same exact spot I was before.
Okay, I'm just going to guess that it wasn't the same exact spot, and I'm going to guess that you don't mean at all that you reoffended. But what
No.
what I want to get to is the notion of agency, and what I mean by agency is, our ability to know that we have some kind of, I don't know if you want to call it power, I don't know if you want to call it ability, but some ability to, if not control our circumstances, at least contribute to them. And just bear with me for 1 second. Before I read your manuscript, I don't think I had been fully aware of the way the environment in incarceration dehumanizes people. And yet, it's my sense from what I read that you had retained enough of your sense of agency that you were helping and connecting with other people who may have lost their senses of agency, or in fact may never have had them. I was going to say I didn't remember that you necessarily used the term lifer in your manuscript, but I think you did. And you connected with those folks and wanted to be helpful to them. That's agency, if you ask me.
You're right. And quick background, yes, no, I did not reoffend or anything like that. And I felt more of the back same spot is more of just that feeling of the beginning. That's not any sort of reoffense. That never happened, no. But yes, the way you do is very easy to lose yourself there. And when you're incarcerated, it is very easy. And it is nothing like I ever thought it was going to be in any way, shape, or form. But I tried to at one point while I was there to think, okay, if you're going to be, if you're losing all this stuff, if you can't be around the people you love, there has to be some sort of silver lining to this, And as I looked around, a lot of people who were really uneducated there, So like, if I can tutor people, if I can try and help people get their GED, if I can help people, get a job when they get out, this might be a plus, some sort of plus, some sort of reason. People always say that everything happens for a reason. I always say it doesn't mean it's a good reason. It just means it's a reason. But the thought in my head is that if I could make this a reason, that this man here now has a job because he passed his GED, and it's because I was able to help him on multiplication, or decimals or fractions, then hey, there's a positive that came out of this. At the same time, I thought to myself, I've disappointed enough people in my life right now, and I can't come here and then completely not be me. Turn into someone who's not who I am. It's just not who I just can't do that. And I can't get back out in 2 years, 20 months, or whatever it's going to be, and have these people look at me like, who the hell are you now? What happened to you? And I'll tell you right now, that's at times some of the hardest parts to do, because there were times I got called a bully. because I know I'm bigger than a lot of people. I know I'm stronger than a lot of people. And if something happened where someone says something to me in a certain way, there are times I couldn't hold it in. So yes, I turned around and I got big, I got strong, I got loud, and I turned into that bully. It happened on basketball court a lot, where people are hitting me and I've had enough, and the frustration of being where I am. I remember one time I was walking across, a yard to fight somebody. Mark, I'm not a fighter. It's not who I am. But I had two gentlemen holding me and just saying, Big John, please stop. Please stop. And they were friends of mine. And I looked at them like I wanted to just throw them and just attack this person, because it takes so much away from you. It takes so much out of you, while you're there. It makes you into a person that you don't want to be at times. And it's not, all you have to do is to survive. It's not that. It takes away because it can.
So I'm just going to say, I don't take you to be someone who would do anything like that unprovoked. And I do remember, and I'll just say this because it indicates to me you hadn't completely lost your sense of self or your agency. There's a part of the book in which you're describing that somebody had messed with your commissary stuff. As I recall, stole your Gatorade, which was a no-no. And you drew a line. And I know you didn't ask me this, but it's a line that for me was appropriately drawn. And I want to share, and we're running out of time and I wish we weren't. I had a college professor point out to me that the reason that we think that we know Victor Frankenstein's creation is a monster, because he has no human connections. And you found a way to establish those even while you were incarcerated. So I don't know if that makes anything easier for you to know that, but I do see that in you. And we established that human connection the first time we met. Again, I don't know if that makes you feel any better or if it's going to make things any easier. We are going to have to wrap here, and I know that you are not, at least for the time being, on social media. But if anyone who is watching this program or listening to it were inclined to reach out to you in some way, is there anything you'd like to share, an email address or anything? I don't want to put pressure on you to do that. Usually most folks on the show have social media accounts.
Yeah, I don't. Part of the thing is I'm not allowed to do that.
Okay.
But yeah, I have an email, and if you, Mark, if you like, I'm not sure how you guys do this on your show, but in the recorded version, if you want to put my email there, that'd be fine.
Okay, and I can work things through the through the station. We'll figure that out. All right. So just as a parting comment, John, and if you don't know what this means, you can look it up, but you're a mensch. I take you to be a mensch. And
I'm from Brooklyn. Of course I know what that means.
All right, cool. And I very much appreciate your being on the show.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. And I thank everybody else who joined us today, and everybody who will see this and listen to it in a recording. And I hope you have a great day, and we'll see you again on the 16th.
Thank you.
Thank you for tuning into The Anxious Voyage, the program dedicated to sharing stories, helping people, and celebrating life. You can see and listen to The Anxious Voyage on syndicated Dream Vision 7 radio network every Monday at 1 a.m. and 1 p.m. Eastern Time, with live broadcast every first and third Monday at 1 p.m. Eastern. If you have a story to tell, or if you know someone who does, please email the host, Mark O'Brien, at mark@o'briencg.com. In the meantime, please remember, the only bad stories are the ones we don't share.
This is Dream Vision 7 Radio Network, uniting mankind with universal love. Our shows are created from the heart, bringing each listener to a place of divine enlightenment.